Just as a solid rock is not shaken by the storm, even so the wise are not affected by praise or blame. The Buddha. Have you ever walked away from an interaction feeling mysteriously drained? Not because of what was said, but because of what it stirred in you? As if a part of your calm had been taken, and all that remained was restlessness. Some people, without even realizing it, draw from your energy like roots pulling from soil. They may not be loud or aggressive. Sometimes it's their neediness, their subtle manipulation, or the heaviness they carry without release. These are not bad people, but their presence unsettles your inner balance. But here's what the Buddha invites us to remember. You don't need to control others, you only need to master your own mind. You can become like that solid rock, unmoved by storms, clear in presence, strong in stillness. In this reflection, we'll uncover the 6 types of people who subtly drain your spiritual energy, and more importantly, how to build an unshakable mind that meets them with compassion without being consumed. Listen through to the end, not only to recognize these patterns in others, but to awaken your own capacity for deep inner power. Let us begin to name what often remains hidden, the subtle ways others can draw from our inner well, not with violence or overt demands, but through their own unconscious wounds, unmet needs, and misplaced expectations. In the Buddha's time, he often spoke of the importance of wise association, surrounding oneself not only with kind people, but with those whose presence supports mindfulness, clarity, and peace. Just as a fire can be nourished or extinguished by what surrounds it, our mental and emotional states are shaped by the energies we regularly encounter. Our awareness is shaped too by what we allow to orbit our spirit. This is not about blame, but recognition, and from recognition, liberation. The first kind of person to be aware of is the unconscious manipulator. This is not the villain of a story. This is often someone in pain, reacting from their past rather than responding to the present. When they feel hurt, they look outward for someone to carry the burden. That someone is often you. Without realizing, they enlist you into the role of caretaker, therapist, or emotional crutch. You may hear them say, "You made me feel this way," even when you spoke gently. Or they may collapse into emotional distress when you set a boundary, subtly pressuring you to remove it. Over time, their pattern weaves a quiet narrative. You are responsible for their stability. And if you do not fulfill this silent role, the unspoken consequence is withdrawal, blame, or emotional chaos. But as the Buddha taught, you must walk your own path. We cannot carry another's storm and expect to stay dry. Compassion does not mean collapsing. It means seeing their pain clearly while honoring your own wholeness. It means staying present without becoming entangled. The path forward is gentle firmness. Like the Bodhi tree, you can stand rooted while the winds pass by. You can say, "I see your pain, but it is not mine to resolve." From that space, you begin to reclaim your energy, not through rejection, but through wise boundaries. Think of it as building a transparent fence. Love still flows through, but confusion does not leak in. Your heart remains open, but your mind stays clear. The second is the one who wears a social mask, the persona. This is the person who has become so fused with an image of success, kindness, intelligence, that they have forgotten how to be real. Their energy is polished, curated, but hollow. In conversation, you sense something missing, not hostility, but distance. What you meet is not a person, but a performance. And beneath that performance, a deep longing to be accepted, yet a fear to be seen. The danger here is subtle. You find yourself questioning your own authenticity. You may feel unseen or unsure how to connect. Their need to maintain an ideal becomes a barrier to intimacy. It creates a field where presence cannot bloom. You may even begin to adopt a mask yourself, mirroring their disconnection. The Buddha warned against clinging to the false self, the egoic mask. Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace. True peace comes not from appearing perfect, but from being present, from letting the guard down, from allowing space for both laughter and vulnerability. If you find yourself with someone who only shows the shine but never the shadow, pause. Ask, am I meeting their heart or just their armor? And remember, you don't need to mirror their performance. Your authenticity is not only safe, it's sacred. When you offer presence in place of performance, you silently invite others to do the same. And sometimes your authenticity becomes the mirror that helps them see themselves anew. The third is the one carrying a repressed shadow. On the surface, they may seem composed, rational, even morally upright. But beneath that order lies a terrain of emotions long buried, anger never voiced, grief never tended, fears never soothed. They have learned to suppress the darkness instead of transforming it. Their inner world is like a tightly sealed jar, quiet on the outside, turbulent within. And like a sealed pot left on fire, pressure builds. They appear stable until a moment comes, an argument, a perceived insult, a loss of control, and the mask shatters. The outburst is often disproportionate, shocking, intense. You feel the heat of what's been hidden erupt into the open. You are caught in the eruption of an emotional volcano you did not ignite. Afterwards, they may act as if nothing happened, because to confront it would threaten the identity they have worked so hard to preserve. The Buddha taught, as a fletcher straightens an arrow shaft, so the wise straighten their minds. But one cannot straighten what one refuses to see. Repressed emotion does not disappear, it waits. And when it surfaces, it does not knock gently. With such people, you may feel like you're walking on eggshells, sensing the undercurrent of their unspoken storms. Compassion here means not rescuing, but not absorbing either. It means seeing their volatility as their work to do, not yours to pacify. Inwardly, remind yourself, I can care without carrying. Let their fire pass through your awareness, but do not let it ignite your peace. The fourth is the moral controller. They clothe their judgments in virtue. They speak in terms of what is right or good, but their real weapon is guilt. They bind both themselves and others in tight cords of shame. You may leave conversations with them questioning your worth, feeling morally small, spiritually inadequate. They do not speak with curiosity, but with decree. These are the ones who point fingers to avoid looking inward. Their judgments are often projections. The very things they condemn are the shadows they have not yet faced in themselves. The noise of their critique drowns out the silence where their own healing waits. They mistake control for clarity and blame for wisdom. The Buddha was clear. Let none find fault with others. Let none see the omissions and commissions of others. But let one see one's own acts, done and undone. The path to peace is not paved with blame. It is cleared with self-honesty. Around such people, guard your self-awareness. When shame arises, pause and ask, is this the voice of truth or the echo of someone else's shadow? Return to your breath. Your breath is innocent. It doesn't shame, it doesn't scold. It simply carries you home. Your breath reminds you, you are already whole. You are not here to perform penance for someone else's pain. The fifth is the one governed by unconscious complexes. At times they are tender, receptive, perhaps even joyful. And then, without warning, they may become distant, irritable, or accusatory. Their moods swing like a pendulum, not due to whim, but because they are driven by unresolved emotional imprints, complexes embedded deep in the unconscious. It's not the weather outside that changes, it's the internal storm that rewrites their behavior. This inconsistency can leave you perpetually confused, always adapting, always on edge. You begin to tiptoe, not out of fear, but in constant anticipation of the next emotional shift. You become the barometer for someone else's unspoken history. The Buddha offered this wisdom. He who is controlled in body, speech, and mind is truly disciplined. But such discipline begins with awareness. When we are unaware of our emotional conditioning, we become puppets to our past. With such individuals, your peace requires strong discernment. Don't mistake their inner turbulence for your failure to care. Instead, let their shifts remind you of your need to remain steady, like a tree unmoved by wind. Let their unpredictability become your cue to return home to stillness. And finally, the spiritual vampire. They do not always come with ill intent. In fact, they often arrive with stories of wounding, suffering, or spiritual longing. But beneath the surface lies a deep dependency. They do not seek you as a person, but as a source, a battery, a healer, a container for their unresolved pain. They carry a thirst that only self-awareness can quench, but they reach outward rather than inward. Their love may look like admiration, but it is need. Their closeness may feel urgent, but it is attachment. Over time, you may feel depleted, as if your soul is being drawn down thread by thread. They do not want to harm, but they have not learned to nourish from within. And so, they drink from you. The Buddha advised, "Be a lamp unto yourself." In truth, we can shine for others, but we cannot burn our own flame to light their path entirely. With the spiritual vampire, boundaries are your sanctuary. Offer your light, but protect your wick. Practice loving kindness without losing your center. You can be kind, but not consumed. Generous, but not emptied. Each of these patterns, though different in form, teaches one timeless truth. You are responsible for your inner space. You cannot stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. You cannot change others, but you can choose who you become in their presence. And in that choosing, you begin to build not walls, but a sanctuary where compassion and clarity can live side by side. This is the gift of spiritual awareness, not a shield from others, but a deeper seeing. So you may walk through the world with open eyes, open hands, and a heart that no longer leaks. And when your energy no longer leaks, it begins to radiate, silently, clearly, powerfully. Not because you push others away, but because you have finally come home to yourself. To understand what it means to build an unshakable mind, let us step into a quiet tale passed down by monks who knew the art of inner stillness. There once lived a young man named Thomas who sought the secret to unwavering peace. Though outwardly successful, his heart often trembled. Praise inflated him, criticism crushed him. A kind word from someone he loved could lift his entire day. A harsh look could collapse it. His mind, he confessed to an old forest monk, was like a leaf in the wind. The monk smiled gently and invited Thomas to a small hut by the river. "Stay here for a week," he said. "Each day, observe the river and write down what you see. Do not ask why yet. Just observe." Thomas did as instructed. The first day, he noted how the river flowed swiftly over rocks. The next, how it slowed in deeper pools. Another day, he wrote of storms that stirred the water, and then of the silence that followed. A fallen tree disrupted the current. Birds dipped their wings into the flow. The surface sparkled, then darkened with clouds. Each entry was different. Each day the river changed. On the seventh day, the monk returned. He sat beside Thomas and read the notes quietly. Then he asked, "What have you learned?" Thomas shrugged. "That the river never stays the same, that it's affected by many things." The monk nodded. "And now, go and sit where you can see the river's depths. Not the surface, the depths." Thomas found a place by a rock ledge and stared into the deep blue below the moving top. Something strange happened. Though the surface rippled, the depth remained calm. Fish moved slowly. Stones rested undisturbed. The movement above no longer dominated what was below. The monk spoke again. "Your mind has a surface and a depth. Most people live on the surface. They are tossed by the wind of praise, shaken by the stone of criticism. But the one who builds a mind like the depths of the river, unshaken, aware, quietly alive, cannot be broken by weather." Thomas closed his eyes. For the first time in years, he did not reach for more understanding. He simply felt it, and it felt like stillness. The Buddha once said, "Just as a solid rock is not shaken by the storm, even so the wise are not affected by praise or blame." This was no longer a quote for Thomas. It was something he had tasted in his bones. This story is not a metaphor you must chase. It is an invitation. Pause. Reflect. In your own life, what is the surface? What stirs it? And where is your depth? The place within that watches, that does not react, that is always present. Building an unshakable mind does not mean escaping the world. It means anchoring yourself in what cannot be taken. The breath, awareness, a gentle honesty. The monk did not remove the storms. He revealed the stillness that was already there. You can begin today, not by controlling the river, but by sitting beside it, watching, learning, remembering that below all turbulence, peace is not something you create. It is something you return to. Let us now turn inward to the deeper teachings that arise from building an unshakable mind, not as a single act, but as a journey of threefold wisdom. These are not merely lessons to be learned, but states of being to be remembered, revived, and returned to each day as a sacred inner rhythm, like the gentle rising and falling of the breath that nourishes our every step. The first is the solitude of strength. In this world, to carry a strong and sovereign mind is often to walk alone. Not because the world abandons you, but because clarity walks a different pace than noise. Many feel lost in a crowd, but the one with quiet strength feels something else, an emptiness that invites communion, not with others, but with the self. This loneliness is not a void, but a mirror. In it, you see who you are when no one is watching. You see your raw truth, not as judged, not as weighed, but simply seen. Imagine a lone mountain under the stars. No one applauds its stillness, yet there it stands, unmoved, unashamed. In solitude it gathers its power, and so must you. Time alone is not a punishment, but a pilgrimage. It is the temple where your inner voice reawakens, your scattered energies reunite, your longing for truth finds fertile soil. The modern world often distracts us with noise, with urgency, with validation seeking. But in solitude, the soul whispers. And that whisper is the compass we've forgotten to follow. The Buddha often withdrew into forests, not to escape people, but to meet the untouched places of his own heart. He taught that the inward path is not for the faint, but it is where we meet truth. It is where we empty ourselves enough to be filled with insight. So honor your aloneness. Let it become a ritual space, a sacred chamber where your thoughts soften and your being breathes freely. Treat it as you would a dear friend, for it is in that silence that wisdom plants its roots and blossoms slowly like a lotus emerging through still waters. The second is the courage to resist mediocrity. The power of the herd, how public opinion, shallow comforts, and the fear of standing out become forces that dull the edge of our soul. To build an unshakable mind, one must accept this. When you rise, you will often rise alone. But that very rise becomes your offering, not of rebellion, but of authenticity. It is tempting to bend, to conform, to silence your truth just enough to be accepted. But every time you betray your inner compass for outer approval, you pay a quiet price. Your vitality dims, your direction blurs, and your strength dissolves into a fog of regret. The Buddha once said, "Few among men are those who cross to the other shore. The rest merely run up and down the bank." To cross over, to become whole, is to walk a path that is less traveled, sometimes misunderstood. The crowd will not cheer your clarity, but your soul will, endlessly. The world may offer you applause for conformity and resistance for originality, but you were not born to echo. You were born to voice. Build your direction not on applause, but on alignment. Ask yourself, not, "What will they think of me?" but "Is this true to my path?" In that question, you reclaim power. You stop being shaped by opinion and begin being shaped by insight. This is not defiance for its own sake. It is fidelity to truth. Like a river cutting stone over centuries, your path becomes real not through force, but through quiet persistence. And each step on that path is a devotion, a prayer in motion. Finally, the price and power of defiance. To live freely, to speak with honesty, to walk with dignity will cost you. It will cost you shallow relationships, short-term comfort, and the illusion of always being liked. But what you gain is weightless and priceless, self-respect, inner peace, and a life that echoes with your own name. You will know the deep, nourishing satisfaction of integrity, a truth lived, not performed. The Buddha did not promise comfort. He promised liberation. And liberation, though light, comes with the shedding of many skins. You must be willing to lose who you were to become who you are. This is not loss. This is the flowering of truth. It requires patience, it requires courage, and it requires that you trust your deeper knowing more than the passing storms of opinion. You may find yourself misunderstood. You may walk away from circles that once felt safe. But in doing so, you step into a circle of one, that sacred space where the mind is no longer pulled in pieces, but gathered whole. And from that wholeness you become a presence that cannot be shaken. Like an oak that grew in silence, your roots deepen beneath the surface. You begin to live in a way that no longer seeks refuge in outer approval because you've built a home within. So, if you are walking this path and feeling the weight of its silence, know this: you are not alone. You are among the few who have chosen depth over distraction, truth over comfort, and peace over approval. And in that choice, a different kind of strength is born. Not the strength to overpower, but the strength to remain. Not to fight the wind, but to anchor deep enough that storms become teachings instead of threats. Let your solitude become your teacher. Let your defiance become your compass. Let your honesty become your temple. Let your life become a slow-burning flame, steady, quiet, and undisturbed by passing winds. Let your mind become a still forest after rain, where even thunder cannot disturb the silence beneath the roots. This is the way of the unshakable mind. A way not loud, but luminous. A way not forced, but remembered. A way not common, but true. Let us end where true change begins, with your awareness. These 6 types of people may not harm you with fists or words, but they drain your energy, limit your freedom, and quietly erode your dignity, not because they are evil, but because they are unaware, and because you may not have remembered your power to choose. So ask yourself gently, Is there someone whose presence leaves me depleted rather than uplifted? Someone whose patterns subtly steer my mind away from peace? You do not need to fight them. You simply need to see and then honor your truth with a calm, clear no. This is not rejection, it is redirection. You are not avoiding them, you are returning to yourself. And in doing so, you no longer chase respect. You become the kind of presence that commands it, silently, surely, like a mountain unmoved by wind. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to like, comment, and subscribe, not for my sake, but as a small gesture of choosing clarity. Together, may you walk gently toward your own strength. May your boundaries be rooted in kindness, your solitude filled with presence, and your choices guided by clarity, not fear. And when the world around you becomes loud, may you always find your way back to that quiet place within, a mind unshaken, a heart at peace.